Well, Moses, he operated in the presence of God, and he operated in impossible situations. And God had said to him on one occasion in Exodus 23, chapter 23, verse 20, "Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries. For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off." So God is given Moses an angel to protect him and to look after him and his people. And he's told to listen to the angel's voice. "Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries." So God's going to protect Moses through this angel, but as long as he obeys his voice. "Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him." He's an angel of God's presence. So Moses followed the presence of the Lord, and the Lord often led Moses into impossible situations to test him, to prove him, and to try him, and to know what was in his heart, whether he would obey the Lord or not. Whether his people would obey the Lord or not. So one of the classic situations that Moses was led into is, let's see if I can find it, it's here I think in Exodus chapter 14. So let's go to verse 5, right? Moses and his people are fleeing from Pharaoh. Now, these days, God's people are going to be under heavy persecution. And in that same sense, we're going to find ourselves driven to what you might call the Red Sea. So a very classic story, but it's not just a classic story. Classic is just a word, but it's a story everybody knows, and they might even now read it as a fairy tale. But actually, it obviously actually happened. And Moses being driven to the Red Sea by God, actually. God told him to go that way. And it all looked impossible. But it wasn't impossible. It was miraculously possible. So it's a true saying that it takes an impossible situation for God to do a miracle. So we're more and more now driven into the miraculous. And as this scenario, this equation, this confusion that we're now all engulfed in gets to be more and more intense and more heavy and more imprisoning and more oppressive, we more and more are going to find ourselves driven to what you might call the Red Sea. Now, being driven to the Red Sea would look like a trap if you look at this in the physical. But Moses had this angel with him, and God had sent this angel to look after him and his people and to protect him and to advise him. So he had to listen to this angel diligently and do everything that this angel said, right? So if he didn't, he would be in big trouble. So to go here to recap on the story of the Red Sea, and it's not a fairy tale, but this is an account of Moses, who was sent this angel, and this angel first appeared to him in the burning bush, and he was going about his daily business, looking after the sheep, and suddenly God appeared to him through this angel in the burning bush. He turned to look at the burning bush, and yet there's a bush burning and the leaves all stay intact, as did the branches. And so he turns to see this great sight. And it was an angel of God in the burning bush. And from then onwards, this angel was to be with Moses every day, every week, every month, every year, for going on for about 40 years. Often Moses would find himself in the physical world in impossible situations with on this occasion with Pharaoh pursuing him in hot pursuit of Moses. So it's a good story to recap on. And in this day and age, we're going to more and more be driven into the camp of the angels. To the woman, it says, the bride of Christ, was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished by God for a time, times, and the dividing of time. That they, the angels no doubt, should feed her there 1,260 days. So the bride of Christ in the last days is going to be driven into the wilderness, and God's going to give her miraculous wings, 2 wings of a great eagle. To the woman, the bride of Christ, was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she was nourished of God for a time, times, and the dividing of time. So for 3.5 years, ultimately, the bride of Christ is going to be protected by God, from the face of the serpent, the all-seeing eye system that they are now bringing in, driving us more and more into the artificial intelligence cam and the image of the beast system that they are now bringing in. And more and more, they're seeking to have a stranglehold on everybody and to take away your choices. And your ultimate choice would be to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and to love your neighbour as yourself, and to serve Jesus and not Satan. So here you have Pharaoh. Much like you're going to have a new Pharaoh that's going to stand up, the Antichrist. And so you can look back on some of these stories that are not just stories. And Moses here driven to the Red Sea, and we'll see what happens in the story, right? And it was told the king of Egypt, not just a story, don't forget, and it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, right? And the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. So picture Christians in the last days fleeing from the face of the serpent. The serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood, that he might cause her, the bride of Christ, to be carried away of the flood. So she's fleeing from the face of the serpent. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled. And the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? So ultimately that's what they want. And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains and over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel, and the children of Israel went out with an high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea beside Pi Hahiroth, before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord, and said unto Moses. Now this is a common theme with God's children when the going gets tough. The soldiers, when the going gets rough, the soldiers are supposed to get tough. But when the going gets rough, the soldiers aren't always tough. And they said unto Moses, because there was no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than we should die in the wilderness. So that's usually a great falling away first. Often when the troubles come in, we find that the whole thing was with a lot of people, a lot of us, including ourselves, just a dream. So, and Moses said unto the people, fear not, fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to do to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And the Lord said unto Moses, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the people of Israel that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thy hand over the sea, and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. So an impossible situation in the physical, but it takes an impossible situation for God to do a miracle. So often God allows us to be driven into these impossible situations to prove thee and to try thee and to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest obey the Lord or not, whether your nice Christian polish is just that, all on the outside and nothing on the inside, just one little scratch and everyone sees the horror beneath the skin, beauty being only skin deep here. So, and I behold, God speaking, I behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them, and I will get me honour upon Pharaoh, and upon all his hosts, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honour upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. So now we have in verse 19, the angel of God, right, that Moses was given to look after him and to keep him safe, to lead him and guide him and to protect him. And Moses would have to obey him diligently, listen to his voice and do everything he says, and then it'll go well with thee. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face. Right, Moses was leading. First of all, he sees this burning bush, and then he realizes it's an angel. It's an angel of God's presence, right? And so this pillar of cloud by day would become a pillar of fire by night. And it all started with a fiery burning bush. And that same fire in the burning bush, which was an angel, would be a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. And the angel of God went before the camp of Israel, removed, and went behind them, and the pillar of the cloud, same angel, went from before their face and stood behind them. So the angel was, in this sense, or was, whichever way you look at it, in this pillar cloud. So you picture a kind of a pillar that might hold up a building, right? A pillar of cloud. So I guess it was shaped like a pillar, if you take that literal, right? A pillar of, and the pillar of the cloud, which was the angel in that cloud, right, went before their face and stood behind them. So the angel was in front and he goes behind. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. So it's dividing between the two of them. And so this angel's in this cloud, right? And it was a cloud and darkness to them, being the Egyptians, but it gave light by night to these, being the children of Israel, right? So that the one came not near the other all the night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. So very, very miraculous. And all Moses operating purely in the presence of God, in the presence of this angel that God has sent him, that would be with him for all of his wanderings in the wilderness, to look after him and to protect him. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud. So you picture this pillar of fire is now a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud. And there's an angel in this pillar of fire and pillar of cloud, and yet it's the Lord, it's the presence of God in this angel, right? And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drove them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians." And the Lord said unto Moses, "Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen." And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw the great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. So that's a miraculous story. And it's not just a story. And that's a miraculous account of what Moses did when he diligently listened to Jesus, to the voice of God, in the angel of God's presence that God had sent to him to look after him, to keep him, and to protect him, and to guide him in the way. So praise Jesus.